Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl. Continuing our High Elf Realms faction focus for Warhammer the Old World, we're now taking a look at what characters they have to offer. So let's dive in and check them out. So first up is the Prince. He's got good weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, initiative, attacks and leadership, though his toughness is low, but he's an elf, so that's what we expect. He comes in as a regular infantry character with a normal 25 by 25mm base size. Equipment as basic is hand weapon and light armor, which gives him a 6+ save. However, he's got lots of choices for equipment, so we can have a hand weapon, a cavalry spear, a great weapon, a halberd, a lance, a longbow, a bow of Avalon, a shield, heavy armor, full plate armor. So you can give this guy full plate armor and a shield, give him a 3+ armor save, and then if you mount him, you can get him to a 2+ as well. So huge amount of variety and options here, which is always nice because you can build your character based around what you want him to do. Plenty of options for mounts as well: the Elven Steed, the Barded Elven Steed, the Tyrannok Chariot, the Griffin, and then the Moon Dragon, Star Dragon, and then the Great Eagle. He may take an Elven Honor, and he can take up to 100 points of magic items. Okay, special rules. He gets Ithilmar Weapons, which is the reroll hand weapons, hit rolls of 1. Hand weapons only, so do think about that when you are picking your equipment as what you want him to do. He does come with strikes first. That's incredibly nice. And Valor of Ages. So, that's the reroll failed panic tests. So, right, a prince is 60 points more than the noble. You get +1 weapon skill, +1 ballistic skill, +1 wound, +1 initiative, +1 attack, and +1 leadership, and has access to dragon mounts. That seems pretty good. In all honesty, I pretty much always take a prince in my army list. Most of the time, we're going to be looking at taking a prince. And there's no doubt that a prince on a dragon mount is incredibly strong. You kit him out with the right equipment, magic items, combine that with the strikes first. You're going to fly this dragon around and it's going to be incredibly strong. And definitely a competitive choice. We've seen it on the tabletop. However, if you're looking at playing just friendly games, local games club or with your mates at home or whatever, and you want to tone down the army list, so you're not running a dragon, because it can be quite oppressive. You can be sat there going, I've got nothing that can deal with this, or he's going around wrecking people's favourite units and stuff. You might want to tone down. And in fact, a lot of times I do recommend that you tone down the list, and experiment a bit. And I'd also like to take a prince mounted on a Barded Elven Steed, in a sizable unit of dragon princes. You've got to give him the correct Elven Honor to do that, but actually that can be a way of still using your prince, still having this cool lord, but without taking him on the dragon, which can make it sometimes in certain games unfun for an opponent. In terms of equipment, I'm going to normally always take this guy mounted. He's going to come with a lance, full plate armor and shield. Those are my go-to items, and then we start looking at what magic items you take, and then go from there. But I do like to give them full plate armor and shield. I can't see any reason why not to in most cases. In terms of Elven Honours, Blood of Caledor has value, because you need it if you're going to put them in a unit of dragon princes. But I'm always skeptical of giving a unit impetuous. So if you're not putting him in the dragon princes unit and you're going to put him on a dragon, then you don't need the Blood of Caledor. Pure of Heart could be a good choice as well. In terms of magic items, Blade of Leaping Gold, it's not cheap, but magic attacks, Armor Bane 2, and extra attacks D3. So if you're going for just lots of attacks, and that ties into the Armor Bane, and if you're striking first, that can be really good if you're going after units of infantry. Like I say, the downside is the strength. You could mitigate that with a Potion of Strength. So Blade of Leaping Gold and a Potion of Strength can be a nice combo. So when you do need it, you use your Potion of Strength, you gain the plus D3 strength until the end of that turn. So, there are times when you can go, right, now's the time to use it. The only thing you would still be lacking there is the AP. Armor of Caledor, also nice. It's full plate armor coming with a 5+ ward save. That can also be nice if you're running around on a dragon on its own. You are able to be targeted, so anything you can do to improve your survivability will be very welcome. Okay, next up is a noble, pretty much a similar situation to the prince. So basically it's just a toned down prince with pretty much all the same equipment options, but it cannot be mounted on the dragons. Also can take an elven honor and 50 points of magic items, and as I said before in the previous video, can also be made a battle standard bearer for 25 points. Right, special rules are exactly the same as the prince. And a noble is on the higher side of points cost for heroes. He still offers good value, he's got good stats, he's got huge flexibility in mounts and equipment still. But often I'll take him on foot to be the battle standard bearer. I do like battle standard bearers, I think they're very valuable. And I think there's good cases for taking a battle standard bearer in most armies. If I'm doing that, then often I'll keep him cheap, no magic items, basically just spending all the points on the banner itself, make sure I get the banner that I want. And then in terms of equipment, though, the full plate armor and shield, absolutely worth taking. Elven honors, and assuming I'm using him as a battle standard bearer, you look for the honor that matches the unit he joined. Like if you want to put him with Phoenix Guard, he's got to have the Anointed of Azurian. If you want him to go with Swordmasters, he needs to be Warden of Safri, because there are limitations on that. So that is something that does have to be considered when you're building your list. Where do you want this guy to go, and make sure you give him the correct Elven honor, because there are many units he's going to need that. Magic items, so these are in terms of banners: Banner of Arcane Protection, Magic Resistance -3, and then models within 6 inches gain Magic Resistance -1. That's a really nice banner, particularly if you know you're going up against an army that's got lots of magic. Or the battle banner, and I'm just focusing on banners that are in the faction, as opposed to the ones that are in the main rulebook. That's on top of that. But battle banner there, plus D3 combat result points, can be really nice, just to give you that edge over an enemy unit, particularly for your elite units that you need them to be, performing well and winning. Right, next up is the Archmage. So this should be a very powerful wizard. So all the standard stuff you'd expect, average stats across the board, regular infantry, comes just with a hand weapon and is base at level 3. You can choose one Law of Magic from Battle Magic, Elementalism, High Magic, or Illusion, and may be upgraded to a level 4, which I strongly recommend. And then can be mounted on Elven Steed, Barded Elven Steed, Moondragon, Star Dragon, and Grey Eagle, and can take up to 100 points of magic items. So he comes with Elven Reflexes, Ithilmar Weapons, Lilius Blessing, which is really nice because that's the re-rolling the failed casting roll. Law of Safri, so you can take that Vols Unmaking, which, definitely worthy of consideration. And then the Valor of Ages as well. So I expect to take an Archmage in most army lists. This is the way, because the way magic is in the game right now, having at least one level 4 wizard in the army is really, really important. I do think they are a cornerstone of a lot of armies. You've got to make sure you've got a good magic user in there, and that is a level 4. They're not normally the cheapest, but depending how you take them, you can make them work and not cost the earth. There's value in either being on foot or on an elven steed in a unit, though I prefer a prince on dragon as opposed to the archmage. And that's, if you put them on a dragon or a great eagle, they're vulnerable to missile fire. The archmage doesn't want to get in combat, so putting him on a dragon doesn't really make sense either. So that's why I put him on foot in a unit, put him on a steed that he can join a unit of knights, for example, at the most. You could put them on a great eagle and fly them around, give them plenty of mobility, but they're going to be at huge risk of being targeted, and you've got to try and work out. Then you've got to be very careful with them to keep them safe. My default go-to all-comers Law of Magic is Battle Magic. However, Law of Illusion with Miasmic Mirage is incredibly good as well, because that stops enemy units marching and charging. That can be really good if you can disrupt and stop an enemy charging at a particular time. That could be key. Also, in terms of Law of Safri, Courage of Venerian, as we said, making a unit unbreakable, or Vols Unmaking useful there as well. In terms of magic items, a silver wand. Bearer knows one more spell than their level of wizardry. That can be useful because that gives you flexibility on spell choices. And the Sigil of Azurian, single use, but it's an automatic dispel. So it's like the old dispel scroll in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So yeah, amazing. I mean, just being able to sit there and go, no, you're not casting that. That's it. No rolls, nothing. Yeah, that's very, very good as well. You know, particularly playing up against something like Vampire Counts or Tomb Kings, where they're trying to, you know, get resurrect models or whatever, or they're trying to, you know, an army's trying to make sure they get a charge off, or you know, a damaging spell to one of your key units. Having that is absolutely amazing. The key will always be knowing when to use it and when not to as a single use item. Okay, Mage, again, absolutely the same. Level 1 though, and can upgrade to level 2. Same laws of magic. Same choices of mount with the exception of the dragons. And up to 50 points of magic items. Again, the same special rules. So it's basically just, it is a toned down Archmage. Again, I expect to take a Mage in most army lists. I do like this combo of a level 4 and a level 2. In most armies, I think that's absolutely got huge value. You mostly keep the Mage cheap, keep him on foot, maybe put him in a unit of archers or Lothern Sea Guard, supporting the infantry. Again, the same as with the Archmage in terms of laws of magic. The battle magic as a go-to, but Law of Illusion, good as well. Courage of Venerin, I think, would be useful. Vals Unmaking, I would prefer to leave to the level 4. It has a higher casting. Silver Wand, again, Sigil of Azurian, both of those should be considered if you haven't used them on your Archmage. But also a Power Scroll, and that's because it is a level 2, so single use, getting that extra d6 when casting, discarding the lowest result, you know, just that extra ability to get that spell off can be incredibly valuable. So yeah, definitely consider a Power Scroll on the lower level of Mage. Right, the Dragon Mage, this is an interesting one. So he's got average stats as you'd expect, boosted by the mount for his toughness, wound, and attacks, right? So it's a Behemoth character, 60 by 100 base. Comes with a hand weapon and light armor. He's level 1 wizard, but the dragon obviously gets his Wicked Claws, Dragon Fire, which is a strength 4 AP -1 breath weapon with flaming attacks, and does come with Draconic Scales, which is full plate armor. More limited in terms of magic options, which is in terms of you can take battle magic or elementalism. Can be a level 2, mounted on a Sun Dragon, 50 points of magic items. Okay, you've got lots of special rules here. So you've got all the stuff you expect from a Mage, plus you've got Blessing of Azurian, which is 5+ ward save against flaming attacks. Dragon Armor, so he's got a 6+ ward save, and can wear armor without penalty, so that's why he gets the full plate. Can fly 10. He does have Impetuous, so you're going to have to be very careful with placing him. Large target. He's got Stomp attacks, Swift Stride, and Causes Terror. So, Dragon Mages are expensive. They're 145 more points than a base print, so that is not a print on a dragon, but you know, you've got your base print, and then you can tailor him how you want. This guy is 145 points to start with, more than your base print. And he's 120 points more than your base Archmage, right? So he's got interesting utility, but personally I prefer to use a fully tooled up melee prince on a dragon for those points, for that amount of points cost, and then use my mages to support from in units. You've got this issue with these hybrids, which is you've got a melee mount that wants to be in combat. To get your points value from that dragon, you need him in combat. But the guy riding him isn't putting the same amount of damage out. And that's a problem, because when you've got this big monster, you need it to go in and do maximum damage. And I just don't feel like you get that from the Dragon Mage. So I think it's an interesting choice. I think it would be a fun choice to play with. But I definitely don't think it is the most competitive choice. Again, Battle Magic is where I would go to on this one. And in terms of Law of Safri, Courage of Venerin, again, Vals Unmaking, you know, you could take it. But do you really want to put that on a lower level of wizard? I think on this one you've got your usual Power Scroll Silver one, but Lawmaster's Cloak could be interesting. That's a 4+ ward save against wounds caused by missile weapons. You know, you're only getting a 6+ ward save with your Dragon Armor, so giving it a 4+ ward save against anything that's a missile weapon, I think would be useful. Or just having the Opal Amulet. It's a single use, but you do get a 2+ ward save against a single wound. That might just keep you alive for one more turn, where you can cast a spell, get a breath attack off, or something like that. So Opal Amulet could be incredibly useful there. Okay, and then we've got the Handmaiden of the Everqueen. So good weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, and leadership, but does have low wounds and attacks. It's regular infantry character, base size 25 by 25, hand weapon, Handmaiden Spear, which is AP -1, +1 initiative against charging units, Bow of Avalon, and light armor. So heavy armor is an option, maybe mounted on a warhorse, 50 points of magic items, and 0 to 1 handmaidens may take the Horn of Isha. So the Horn of Isha, single use, take a leadership test, and if passed, the character and the unit gain +1 to hit and to wound. That is very nice. Right, so she comes with the Arrows of Isha, and she's using a Bow of Avalon. That's standard equipment, so that's nice. She's got Evasive, which means once per turn, she can fall back in good order in the enemy shooting phase. So that's before they shoot, so you could move out of range. You can ignore cover when shooting, immune to psychology, got the Ithilmar armor and weapons, and strikes first. Very nice. So a fairly points efficient unit. You know, it's 5 points cheaper than a noble. If you take her as a general, you can get your Sisters of Avalon as core, at least one unit. She's got fairly specific with weapons and special rules. So if you're going to take this character, you kind of want to be taking Sisters of Avalon, in my view. You don't have to, but they definitely go together very nicely. You know, you get the most out of the special rules because they have the same ones, and I think that's always important. So, you know, if you're taking a character, you want the character's special rules to match the unit, so you get the value. It should be noted the Horn of Isha can provide good buff to many different units, but you give that to Sisters of Avalon with their bows. So you're now, not only have they got the Bow of Avalon, with the Arrow of Isha giving them the additional Armor Bane and Armor Piercing characteristic, but you give them +1 to hit and +1 to wound, and one of their biggest issues is their strength. That can make a very devastating missile unit, and that can actually, that +1 to hit as well with the pretty good ballistic skill is very, very nice indeed, and I would be very wary of a unit of Sisters of Avalon that has that buff. Equipment wise, I would always opt for the heavy armor and the Horn of Isha without a doubt. Magic items, generally none. You know, I like to keep them cheap. However, maybe if you're taking her as a general because you need to get the Sisters core, then maybe you want to buff a little bit and give her some more durability. So maybe a ward save, you know, something like the Opal Amulet or whatever. But normally I would look to take the character and keep cheap as possible. She's there to join the unit and focus on using that Horn of Isha. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the characters section for the High Elf Realms. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. Totally free for you to do. Means a lot for me, so thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Hour. Tune back in as we take a look at what mounts the characters can take and what rules they have.